Hi, this is Jack Berkowitz, the Chief Data Officer of Securiti.ai. We're a company that specializes in data AI, security, privacy, and now everything about generative AI governance and security. This is our ongoing series of interviews with senior leaders in the data and AI space. We're really talking with, the very top of organizations, talking about transformation, talking about effectiveness of their teams, effectiveness of business results for the companies. With me today from Chicago, and we're recording this in the winter, so it must be cold there, is Dan Cromer. I've known Dan for, I don't know, 6, 8 months now. So Dan, why don't you introduce yourself and let's jump into the conversation.
Thanks, Jack. Dan Cromer, part of Walker and Dunlop and WD Tech, which is our internal tech organization. We are a finance organization for the commercial real estate industry, particularly specializing in multifamily loans across a number of our different business lines. And my role is a product manager in all our tech organization, focused on a lot of our data and how we can make more effective use of that and across all of our different businesses.
Yeah. So Dan, right, when we first met, um, it was a little bit of us pitching you some technology from Securiti, but also we met at a dinner in Chicago, a CDO magazine dinner in Chicago, where we met a lot of different folks. But it's interesting, right? You were telling the story, Walker and Dunlop's been a successful business for years, but you're coming in with sort of a new perspective, a new transformation agenda, really, about technology and about data and how to use it. How does that how does that feel now that you've been in the role for, a while? How does it feel both sort of having that agenda both inside the organization, inside the product groups and inside the technology groups, and across the organization with the other business groups and business units?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's great to see a company that's so well respected and has really entrenched itself to be a leader in the space, and that's no small undertaking. And to be able to bring, a vision of what more we can do with data, what more can be done with technology to actually augment that, gives us a platform that we can build from. I really appreciate you calling out, what it is to bring new things in, but also, at the same time, take a look at everything being done in a new place and see, uh, how impressive the breadth and scale of a lot of the different activities that are going on are. And one of the things that, is most impactful as a leader, in the organization to be able to see through that data lens from the top down is really how many different independent things are often going on that, are actually related or intersect or, are precursors to one another, and being able to stitch those together and create connections, a lot of times off of through things that are already out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's the piece that always intrigues me, right? Um, I work at a small company now, but I used to work, at one of the biggest companies in the world, and the complexity of everything that's happening at all times. And how do you bring a data program which, can feel somewhat isolated, but it really then takes advantage of all these interconnections, can be complex or challenging. So my next question, or really it's more of a comment, is, you know, how are the people perceiving the change today? Right? Because when we first were meeting and talking, it was like, we're going to do a lot. How
Yeah.
what's been a good thing? What's been a bad thing? Because obviously nothing's ever 100% good. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe
Well,
your
you
boss is
could you
watching.
could probably ask this of any technologist, right? The moment the word change comes around, we think, oh boy, we're already busy. How are we going to take on more? How are we going to look at things, differently if we've already put a lot of time into, uh, you know, designing the world as it is today, right? How do you find the time to design the world that's going to be tomorrow? And that's a tough problem because, anyone knows there's supporting what's out there as well as, being able to wrangle that into new forms. that's the first thing that comes to mind, right? Is, wow, we're already busy. How are we going to take on more? And I think, as we abstract problems, find connections, realize that there are major problems that everyone is trying to chip away at small parts on. And if we can, combine and find those overlapping activities, it's always something that then you have two people, building towards, than everyone working individually.
So, so think about this, right? When we're going through these multi-year transitions, it used to be understandable. Oh, well, gee, the web came and now we have a multi-year transition to move people to the web and then mobile devices. And we still have multi-year transition to go to mobile devices. I actually had a gap in my schedule yesterday and spent a few hours just catching up on technology news, right? Between Microsoft inventing a new state of matter for quantum computing, agentic AI, Grok 3 suddenly out surpassing this. And if you watch this in the future, maybe it'll be Grok 4 or 5, right? How do you how do you need to think about all these technology advances and incorporate all these technology advances? I mean, I'm sitting here looking at it thinking, I took a week without reading the tech press and I'm already out of date. How do you think about, taking advantage of all these tech things? I'm not saying you're going to be using quantum computing tomorrow, but in this idea of also just trying to do some of the fundamentals with data.
Yeah, there's a lot packed in there. We could probably expand to a whole hour on that subject alone. I appreciate when you look at the news, you're seeing the novelty of the applicable technologies, not to mention all of the things we're seeing on the front page around, what we would call data governance. And if you had ever asked me if we'd understand the Treasury Department's, database security protocols on the front page of the news, would not have guessed that would ever have made it. But to your question, there's, it's inspiring to see so many things that are related, right? What inspires me as well is when you look across every single one of these technologies, data is the universal input, right? When we look at everything that's come up with AI, the input is data plus compute plus the algorithm, right? When we look at quantum computing, which you just mentioned, you have to be processing something, that in fact is going to be your data. And so, when you recognize that that's a consistent input across everything, it really clears up and makes sense of what truly the asset you have that is valuable, right? When it comes to how do you take advantage of all of these things, you know as well as anyone that, when it comes to everything, there's always a bit of a bandwagon effect at first, where the torrent of new things comes out until they kind of coalesce into use case purpose technologies. And that's where I've found, coming to many data problems with that product management lens is always very helpful, because we're trying to combine, a use of a technology, a real problem that's out there in the world, and we're trying to, do that in a way that empowers someone using it. And a lot of times, it gets overwhelming if you're trying to make use of everything, right? And then to your, second point, the what can be done with all of that. Um, you know, it is a matter of mapping, those things that you want to do, which actually tend to be slower changing than the technology over time, right? We are in the real estate finance business. Uh, you know, we know that that's going to be a constant. So when you can make sense of what are your constants, what are your assets, and then what are these new challenges that you might be able to take opportunities of, or new opportunities, it becomes really clear to connect the dots and see, okay, I can't do everything, but this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I love the fact, and that's why I think that, you bring something so special to the space by thinking about it as a product problem, right? It's a product problem. It's a product of data or a product of analytics or a product of analysis that you're providing to everybody else, as opposed to just a tech capability and hoping that somebody uses it one day. I think that brings, the business benefit to everybody.
It's a challenge of multi-dimensional thinking on the same problem, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, look, on that note, why don't we wrap it there, right? With me today has been Dan Cromer from Walker and Dunlop, who is, sort of leading the charge, not just in Chicago, but across the industry about looking at new ways of bringing data capabilities to a business that really at an inflection point overall. Super excited to see you here today, Dan, because I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the past few months. I look forward to watching your career and being part of your career as you move forward. Um, Again, I'm Jack Berkowitz. I'm with Securiti AI. We're a company that works on data and AI security. Most recently with data security posture management and our new GenCore AI capabilities, which provide the ability for companies to build and govern and manage generative AI and agentic AI solutions. Super happy to have Dan on with us today, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so
Jack,
much.
thank you so much. It's never a bad conversation, so I look forward to the next one.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan.